Well, I've heard the story of you being mistaken for a jazz musician of a different race and gender, but for those who have not, will you tell the story?
Well, it's happened a lot. I don't even know which one you're referencing, but I've had, in the early years, before most people at this point, if they're familiar with jazz or familiar with me, they know that I'm a white woman with blonde hair, 5'6", 115 pounds. And so they have an image of kind of my sort of surfer girl look.
Right.
Carmen McRae, the great singer Carmen McRae, was known for being very tough. People were really afraid of Carmen. And this was my first big jazz festival. It was at this wonderful Frank Gehry building in Concord, California. And she heard my sound check. And so she heard stride piano. So she sent somebody up to find the stride pianist. So she thought I was a guy and black. Mm-hmm. And so then I came down into her dressing room and I said, well, you asked to see me. And she said, no, I didn't. And I said, well, you wanted to see the stride pianist. And she gave me a once-over. I'll never forget it because she did. Her eyes went all over me. She goes, well, honey, you don't look like you play.
Wow.
And then she became this big, big supporter. I mean, she was always asking me to stuff and introducing me to people. And eventually it wound up being something good because I stood out.
Do you enjoy that now, though? You don't look like you play. I mean, do you think that's part of your appeal, that unpredictability? I was thinking, I'm really fascinated by this whole idea. I had the comedian Rita Rudner on the show, and she talked about how her style is very much rooted in the disconnect between her appearance and the way that she holds herself and what actually comes out of her mouth. And that's where the comedy is. And it's the separation between what you're saying and how you're presenting it. So wouldn't you say that truth is inherent in all art? You know, that separation between the container and what you're actually expressing?
That's such a beautiful question. You're really good at this, Walker. I mean it.
That's very sweet.
It's really, well, it's exciting, and I want to take time to say this because I've done a lot of interviewing, obviously, and I've been interviewed a lot, and it's the real interview is becoming a lost art, and it saddens me. It's one of the reasons I started my show, because when I was starting out, you'd have a real conversation. And the best interviewers made you think of things that maybe you hadn't thought of, which you're doing. And that's kind of stopped. Now when I'm interviewed, most of the time, people just send me a series of questions that they want me to email back. There's no interaction. Right. So when I compliment you, I mean that in a deep way. It's a real throwback to a time when we actually used to have conversations.
It means a lot. I appreciate it.
No, I mean it.